welcome to Planetary Health First, Mars Next. We are live at VIVE, and this is an awesome day. We have Curtis, and he looks like a man of steel. This guy is real. He's Curtis Anderson. He is the CEO, founder of Nursa, and this is going to be like simple stuff, but complex stuff. So we're going to drive some really cool conversations here today. We're going to start with staffing. Yes, if you don't have nurses staffed right, your healthcare system is going to not work. But we're also going to get into some cool stuff like generative AI. And we got...
Which we just talked about.
Oh, yeah. And we got Neil here over on the... knows healthcare. He's been with health systems. So I'm looking forward to this great conversation. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Curtis. How the heck did you get involved here where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Background's in product and engineering, so built software products in a number of industries, and found a staffing agency, a traditional staffing agency in 2017 that was really fascinating to me. They had grown revenue 7 years in a row, 100% plus year over year. I thought it was incredible because I went to visit the home base, and they walked me into this room with a whiteboard, and on one side of the whiteboard they had green sticky notes with nurse names, and on the other side of the whiteboard they had orange sticky notes with hospital travel contract listings. And the guy running the place at the time walked up to the whiteboard, pulls a green and an orange sticky note off, puts them together in the center, and says, "Curtis, making money in this business, is this easy?" And I sort of rolled my eyes, had a half dozen thoughts at the time, but one of which was, if I'm half of what my mother thinks I am in Excel, we should be able to do this better with VBA. Bought the agency, put an operator in place, and started to quickly learn there's a bunch of distinct nuance here that's really complicated. You end up in this world of people who separate the nurse manager who has the shift need and the nurse who is qualified to fill that need, and it turns into a big adult game of telephone with ultimately the same result that it had on the playground as a kid, where information goes in one side, doesn't come out the other. These two parties never speak until the day that the assignment begins, and as such, they get lost in the middle. And so agencies seemingly historically have solved a simple problem, to what you said, Michael, but overall it's actually really complex and fairly nuanced. And so we started to pull apart how that process happened and replace it with digital layers that could do it better.
Nice. Neil, what is your thought being from the health system?
I love this. I actually, first of all, think that little sticky bat is like healthcare, right?
Yeah. And the Flintstones.
And the funny thing is, and I think part, just to like layer on this complexity point, part of it is someone often who's pulling that sticky bat off knows 2 or 3 critical pieces of information about one person that's on that sticky pad. And so what you basically do is have all this human knowledge kind of trapped in individuals instead of being digitized. And so what the problem is I think an amateur tries to digitize it, doesn't get all that contextual knowledge in.
Yes.
And then actually makes the process worse when it should make it better. Yeah. And that's because the manual process was so relationship driven. Mm-hmm. So that's what I love about both what you're trying to do, the solution you're trying to do, but also the complexity for which you're approaching it.
Yeah, it's incredible how relationship oriented it is, and matchmaking in that sense can be really difficult mathematically.
So how do you seamlessly integrate with the health system? Like, what is that magic that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nursa today focuses exclusively on per diem. You only get to be the best in the world at one thing at a time. And what we saw at the agency the first year that I owned it was we could solve less than 0.2% of those per diem needs. Agencies are built to optimize for a longer term engagement. Someone's leaving on summer vacation or a maternity leave, a longer term aspect. They also can't resource and incentivize a recruiting and an account management team based on 12 hours when there's an endless stream of 12-week needs available. And so per diem felt like the right place. It's also effectively the hardest problem to solve. I need someone who is qualified to fill this need overnight, tomorrow at 3 p.m., or even worse is tonight at 6 p.m. And so that felt like the place where we should go tackle first. Because if you can't do that, then none of the rest of this is even an open door. We built the software to do that and launched in 2020, have been on a dead sprint since, as you might expect, given macro conditions. And then the idea of getting into understanding how to connect these two transparently better has been an optimization effort. It's a better, never done concept. You continue to improve the way that you can make the match happen and the quality of those matches over time. We've certainly had enough at-bats to start to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So your nursing pool, are you managing those nurses, or are you linking people to a broader marketplace? Like, where are you on the sort of how much of that pipeline you own?
Yeah, absolutely. So back to the game of telephone, we're the digital switchboard. We're the layer, the ubiquitous technical layer on which the two parties can connect. The nurse manager who has the need and the nurse who wants to fill it. Because we see ourselves that way and we're working in that way today, we don't take exclusive ownership on the pool. Which is a key difference from historical, right?
Exactly.
We're leaving the decision making and the serendipity of what happens between those two parties up to them and within their control.
So Curtis, I feel like we're segueing into generative AI, using this amazing intelligence, digital intelligence to, I imagine you're working on, right? To give them the decision making. Right, to augment that. Is that where you're now going with potential generative AI? If you're not owning those nurses, you're giving these health systems better decision-making capabilities with your technology. Is that where we're going to get into generative AI?
That's it, Michael. So the complexity of, for a nurse, what they're trying to optimize for is variety, flexibility, and then pay, the financial dynamic. The facility managers have the need of trying to put a nurse at the bedside of a patient in need. And so we're committed to be able to enact both of those. So the clinician has the opportunity to be flexible and make choices. But as you know, the information that we put in front of them can help influence and enable their career in ways that they haven't seen before. And that's where math can win.
So can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Just because I spend a lot of time with CFOs, and basically, CFOs decide on three things, and then basically go down the hallway screaming at people those three things, right? I've been screamed at all the time when I worked in a health system. Yeah. And so one of those things is, temporary nurse spending, per diem nurse spending being a problem. So how much of that market do you see going down? Or have we hit bottom yet? Where is supply and demand going to kind of end up at, do you foresee?
Yeah, supply and demand is a really interesting piece. Michael, you talked about the relationship and the way that this compounds that to where we are today. I think there are some interesting indicators. You've never been able to measure per diem before. The other thing is, and this will help illustrate the concept of something that's very simple but very complex in the world order today. Never has a CFO of a health system been able to understand what they are spending today. You get round numbers and you can forecast and project that, but digital tooling and a layer like this allows for an administrative individual to look at this, what's happening today. Not only that, but to set thresholds, notifications, hard stops on when that spending can or can't exist. Understanding exactly what that spend has got them in an external market-facing perspective. All of that data is certainly important. Most of the time, in a traditional or historical relationship, that financial data wouldn't be available for 30, 60, 90 days after the shift had been completed, which gave the agencies an upper hand in an information symmetry conversation. But now, with digital tooling, we can give them a clear understanding today. Now, what that's done is started to create better relationships between the individual on a team who's solving for the financial problem and the individual who's solving for the staffing problem. And when we're all looking at the same data, there's nothing new in this, but you get transparency, and transparency leads to better conversations. Those lead to better collaboration, and we start to see huge lift overall.
So Curtis, this is awesome that you've been here today. What would you want to, beacon signaling out, who would you like to talk to? Who are I guess obviously CFOs are the decision makers that bring you on. Who would you like to just signal out to talk with today?
Yeah, it's a great question. For us, we're on the front edge and on the threshold of a change in being centered on a relationship to trusting digital tools and applications. We're not necessarily interested in working with everyone today. We'd like to forge partnerships with those who are familiar and willing to test and temper the boundaries of where this can go. We see cost reductions in partnerships. We see improved numbers in burnout and turnover. If those are things that have really shaken the foundation that you're standing on, and you're willing to look at a new model or try something different, truly different, we'd love to speak.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, Curtis, to have you on, the CEO, founder of Nursa, on Planetary Health First, Mars Next, live at VIVE.
Thank you.